I need to tell you about a phone call I got 3 years ago that changed everything between me and my daughter. We were talking about Thanksgiving. Nothing heavy, just coordinating plans like we'd done for years. And then, right in the middle of the conversation, she said something. Just one sentence. 7 words that seemed innocent enough at the time. But at 70 years old, I've learned to hear what's really being said. And in that moment, I knew. A relationship I thought we had, it was already over. I just hadn't admitted it to myself yet. Here's what nobody tells you about getting older. Your children will give you signs, clear signs, that the respect, the closeness, the relationship you thought you'd built over decades, it's gone. And most of the time, these signs come wrapped in polite words, reasonable explanations, concern for your well-being. That's what makes them so dangerous. Today, I'm going to share with you the exact phrases that signal the end. Not just the words my daughter said, but the other statements I've heard from friends, from people who reach out to me, from seniors who suddenly realize their children see them differently now. And more importantly, I'm going to tell you what to do when you hear them. Because once you know what to listen for, you can't unhear it. And that moment of clarity, as painful as it is, might be the thing that saves your dignity in your final years. Let me back up for a second. For most of my adult life, I thought I had a good relationship with my kids. Not perfect, no. We had our arguments, our disagreements, like any family. But there was respect there, or at least I believed there was. I raised them, sacrificed for them, went without so they could have opportunities I never had. And I'm not looking for a medal for that. That's what parents do. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. They grow up. They have their own families, their own problems, their own busy lives. You understand that. You expect that. You don't want to be the needy parent who demands constant attention. But then the calls get shorter. The visits get less frequent. And when they do talk to you, there's this tone, this subtle shift in how they speak to you, like you've become a responsibility instead of a person, a problem to manage instead of a parent to honor. And you start making excuses for them. They're busy. They've got a lot on their plate. Times are different now. You convince yourself that you're being understanding, that you're being the mature one by not complaining. But deep down, you feel it. That slow withdrawal of respect, that gradual repositioning of you from parent to burden. And then one day, they say something, and suddenly, you can't pretend anymore. The phrase my daughter said to me was this: "We just want what's best for you, Dad." That's it. 7 words. Sounds caring, doesn't it? Sounds like love. But let me tell you what I heard in those words. I heard, "We've decided you can't make decisions for yourself anymore. We know better than you what you need. Your judgment is no longer trusted." She said it when I told her I wasn't interested in moving to a senior community, that I was happy in my home, that I'd lived there for 30 years and had no intention of leaving. "We just want what's best for you." Gad, not "what do you want, Dad?" Not "how can we support your decision?" Not "tell me more about why staying home is important to you." No. It was already decided. They'd already discussed it among themselves. My children had sat around someone's kitchen table, probably with coffee and concern on their faces, and determined what was best for me, without me in the room. That's when I knew. The relationship where I was the parent, the authority, the respected elder of the family, that was over. I'd been demoted. I was now the child, and they were the parents. Let me share the other phrases that signal this same shift, because once you recognize them, you'll see the pattern. Phrase number 2, "You're not getting any younger." A friend of mine, George, heard this from his son when he mentioned wanting to take a trip to see his brother in Arizona. He's 74, perfectly capable of flying. But his son said, "Dad, you're not getting any younger. Is that really a good idea?" What's that supposed to mean? that every decision now has to be filtered through the lens of impending death, that at 74 you should just sit still and wait, this phrase is a dismissal. It's a way of saying your desires don't matter as much as their fears. And make no mistake, it's their fears, not yours. They're afraid something might happen to you and they'll have to deal with it. So instead of supporting your independence, they shut it down with this meaningless statement. You're not getting any younger. Well, neither is anyone else on this planet. We're all aging every single day. But somehow when you hit a certain age, that becomes a reason to stop living. The third phrase, let me do that for you. Now this one's tricky, because sometimes it's genuine help. Sometimes your kid or grandkid sees you carrying groceries and offers to help, and it's just kindness. But there's a version of this phrase that's different. It's the tone. It's the automatic assumption that you can't handle something you've been handling your whole life. I saw this with my neighbor, Dorothy. She's 81, sharp as a tack. Her daughter came to visit and immediately started taking over. Let me do that for you, Mom, became the refrain for everything. Making coffee, sorting mail, answering the phone. Dorothy finally snapped at her. I've been making my own coffee for 60 years. I think I can manage. But here's what that phrase really communicates. You're incapable now. I don't trust you to do basic things. You need supervision. It strips dignity one small task at a time. Death by 1,000 helpful gestures. Phrase number 4. Have you talked to your doctor about this? This is the medical shutdown. Anytime you express an opinion, a plan, or a preference, it gets redirected to a medical authority. You say you're not hungry at dinner? Have you talked to your doctor about your appetite? You mentioned you're tired of taking one of your medications. You need to talk to your doctor before making any changes. You want to rearrange your own furniture? Maybe check with your doctor first. Make sure you should be lifting things. What this phrase does is remove your autonomy and place it in the hands of the medical system. It says, you're not a person anymore. You're a patient. And patients don't make decisions. Doctors do. I'm not saying ignore medical advice. I'm saying you're still a thinking human being who gets to have preferences and make choices, even if those choices involve some risk. The fifth phrase, and this one cuts deep. We're worried about you. 3 words that sound like love, but function like control. My daughter said this to me too. After I told her I was fine, that I didn't need what she was suggesting, she said, Dad, we're just worried about you. And how do you argue with that? How do you tell your child not to worry? It puts you in an impossible position. Either you submit to what they want, or you're the stubborn old man making his family suffer with anxiety. But here's the truth about this phrase. Their worry is not your responsibility. Let me say that again. Their worry is not your responsibility. They're adults. They can manage their own emotions. You can be compassionate about it. You can explain your reasoning, but you don't have to sacrifice your independence and dignity to soothe their anxiety. Because we're worried about you is often code for we're worried about ourselves. Worried about getting a call from the hospital. Worried about having to take time off work. Worried about the inconvenience your aging might cause them. Phrase number 6. You don't remember, but this is the gaslighting phrase. The one that makes you question your own mind. Maybe you do forget things sometimes. At 70, I certainly do. But there's a difference between normal age-related memory changes and being treated like you have no reliable memory at all. When every disagreement, every difference of opinion gets blamed on your failing memory, that's not concern. That's dismissal. We talked about this last month. You don't remember, but you agreed. You told me you wanted this. You just don't remember saying it. This phrase removes your credibility. It makes you the unreliable narrator of your own life. And once your children start using your age and your normal human forgetfulness as a weapon, the respectful relationship is gone. And finally, the phrase that might be the most dangerous of all. It's for your own good. This is the ultimate parental phrase, isn't it? The thing you probably said to your kids when they were young and didn't understand why they couldn't have candy for dinner or stay up all night. And now it's being used on you. It's for your own good, Dad. When they want you to sell your house, when they want you to stop driving, when they want you to move closer to them, when they want you to give them power of attorney, it's for your own good. What that phrase really means is, I've made a decision about your life, and I'm not interested in your objection. It's paternalistic, it's condescending, and it signals that they no longer see you as an equal adult worthy of making your own choices. Now, let me be clear about something. I'm not saying your children are evil. I'm not saying they don't love you. Most of the time, they genuinely believe they're helping. They're scared. They're overwhelmed. They're trying to protect you from harm and protect themselves from grief. But good intentions don't erase the impact. And the impact of these phrases used repeatedly over time is the systematic dismantling of your authority over your own life. So what do you do when you hear these phrases? First, you recognize them for what they are. You stop making excuses. You stop pretending it's just your imagination. When your child speaks to you like you're a child, acknowledge it, at least to yourself. Second, you set boundaries, calmly, clearly. When my daughter said, "We just want what's best for you," I let it sit there for a moment. Then I said, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm still capable of deciding what's best for me. If that changes, I'll let you know." Was she happy about that? No. Did we have a tense conversation? Yes. But I drew a line. This is my life. These are my decisions. I'm still here. Third, you accept that the relationship has changed. And that's painful. It's one of the hardest parts of getting older. The people you raised, who once looked up to you, now look down on you. The respect you thought was permanent turned out to be conditional. But accepting it doesn't mean surrendering to it. You can love your children and still stand firm in your own dignity. You can have a relationship with them while refusing to be infantilized. It won't be the relationship you thought you'd have, but it can still be a relationship on your terms. Fourth, and this is important, build your life so you're not dependent on their approval or their presence. The seniors I know who maintain the most dignity in old age are the ones who have friends, activities, purpose, and independence. They're not sitting by the phone waiting for their kids to call. They're not making their children the center of their universe. They're living fully on their own terms. And when their children do show up, it's a bonus, not the main event. That phone call with my daughter 3 years ago was a turning point for me. I could have ignored what I heard. I could have convinced myself I was being too sensitive, that I was reading too much into it. I could have just gone along with what she wanted to keep the peace, but I didn't. I chose my dignity over her comfort, and I won't lie to you, it wasn't easy. There were months where we barely spoke. There were holidays that felt strained. There were moments where I wondered if I'd made a mistake. But you know what? I'm still in my home. I'm still making my own decisions. I'm still living my life the way I choose to live it. And gradually, slowly, my daughter started to respect that. Not because she agreed with me, but because I showed her I wasn't negotiable on this. The relationship isn't what I thought it would be, but it's honest now. There's no pretending. We both know where we stand. And I've built a life that doesn't revolve around whether she calls or visits. I have friends. I have routines. I have things I look forward to that have nothing to do with my children. That's what I want for you. I want you to hear these phrases when they come. I want you to recognize the shift happening in your relationships. Not so you can be bitter or angry, but so you can be clear-eyed and intentional about how you respond. You've earned the right to live your final years with dignity. You've earned the right to make your own choices, even if they're not the choices your children would make for you. Don't let polite phrases and concern-coded control take that away from you. If you've heard any of these phrases from your children, I want you to know you're not imagining it. You're not being too sensitive. You're recognizing a real shift in how you're being treated, and you have the right to address it. You also have the right to accept that some relationships change in ways we can't control. Our children become who they become. We can't force them to treat us with the respect we deserve, but we can refuse to abandon ourselves in the process. If this resonated with you, do me a favor. Share this with a friend who might need to hear it. Sometimes just knowing we're not alone in this experience makes all the difference. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. I'm here every week talking about the real issues we face as we get older. No sugarcoating. No pretending everything is fine when it's not. Just honest conversation between people who understand. At 70, I've learned that the truth might sting, but it's better than living in denial. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, your life is still yours.